I should be, okay, I'm live now.
Now to the war in Ukraine and what the White House is saying. The AP's Charles de Ledesma has this.
Okay. So let me know if you can hear. So let me know if you can hear.
I can hear you, Miss Jackson.
Okay. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, can we hear you?
Yes. Can you? Yes.
Okay.
A B C D E F G.
Can you hear her now? Just keep talking.
I can hear you both. You sound
Okay,
great.
great. Okay.
H S S elemental P.
Yep. I am going to do something in July, and I'm going to call you about it.
Oh, I love that.
It's going to be fun.
Oh, I'm excited.
It's going to be fun.
Streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Okay.
Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms
Okay,
here
great.
with cloudy sky
Let's
conditions
turn
and a high in
this.
the mid-60s. Winds out of the southwest of
Okay.
15 to 20 miles per hour.
Sorry, Pastor, it's always, this is a news show. I was explaining that to a friend of mine, so I had a couple of interviews, and just right up until the last minute, I'm getting
That's your latest Chicago weather update.
things together. Right up until the last minute. So, hey everybody, hi Morning Stars. It is wonderful being with you today.
15 years of growing kinder, smarter, and happier kids. Give the child in your life a summer of empowerment, challenge, and fun. Camp Space fills up fast. Register today at multiculturalcamp.com.
Okay.
And let's keep those texts
All right.
coming. 773-763-9278.
I'm Brandon Johnson. As a husband, dad, teacher, and county
And everybody, Brandon Johnson will be on the show today.
I'm running for mayor to make it easier.
And as you can go back and hear my hour-long talk with Paul Vallis from yesterday.
By getting serious about addressing
It was,
mental health, poverty, and hope.
to his credit,
Get tough on fighting
and to your credit, quite frankly,
I'll train and 200 new detectives.
whatever it is, a lot of people are supporting a lot of folks. And while I have my preferences, I certainly want you to know that I respect yours. So wherever you line up, I'm going to bring I will always bring all candidates onto this show. Even in the presidential campaign, please, if Trump is the nominee, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, I'll try and get him too. Because I think that people need to hear. Even if I don't agree with you, I'm going to try and do that. I think that's my responsibility. But, that's how I do things. So there you go. I know people will be like, what? Trump? Well, the nature of politics and the nature of life is that you know where you've been, but you don't know where you're going. That's what my pastor's wife, Mrs. Luther May Evans, used to say. And you just try to relate to everybody and just keep your integrity together. So there is that. So I love you all. I'm so glad to be with you today. It's an honor yet again to be with you. Of course, we'll be talking about the
3
Trump.
months.
Thank you so much. We'll be talking about the Trump indictment. Boy, did that catch people by surprise. Last night I had a really full day yesterday, so I missed some of it. Then I came back, I said, he was what? Ooh. But we'll see, because, it's very interesting, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. The Michael Cohen, upon whose testimony much of this is predicated, who served time in prison, he was charged federally. But former President Trump is being given state charges. I want to know what that's about. And he was charged, convicted, and served time federally. But that's not what's happening with with President Trump. And I'm going to have two people on this morning, Dwight McKee and Attorney Robert Patillo, who kind of predicted that this would happen back in 2020. And Dwight said, why turn a monster into a martyr? I would say, why turn a menace into a martyr? And I think this could be a real boost to former President Trump politically.
Right.
It's just, I don't know what these people are doing. I really don't. Because prosecutions in and of themselves are political. My brother was about to get a really, really big, he was about to be elevated to a huge position in the House of Representatives, because even at his young age, he had a lot of seniority. And just as that happened, all these charges came up on him, and they were threatening with putting him away for life. And, when when the family found out very late, thank you so much, it turns out they didn't want any of the so-called monies back. Now, when I say so-called, because all the monies that you raise when you're running for office, when you retire, they become your personal funds. They didn't want any of that. They just wanted him out, and they wanted to make him a felon. So I know how this works. I'm not making excuses for anyone. I'm just saying,
30 seconds.
What? If you're going to charge someone, if you want to drain the swamp, drain all of it. Don't leave some people at the top. And why inflame part of the public? I mean, I don't get it, but, here I am. Who am I? Oh, my honey, because these are jokers we've got to live
10
with.
seconds.
Okay? Thank you. Stand by. We're coming up.
Stand by.
Thank you. We'll have a great show. Thank you, Alex.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Friday, March 31st. No, it's not April Fool's Day, but wow, it feels like something strange is going on. For the first time in history, an American president, a former president, has been indicted. Indeed, Gerald Ford's pardoning of President Nixon, of then former President Nixon, really ended that. Well, that didn't happen this time. Now, Donald Trump has been indicted. He will be arraigned next week. I want to know what your thoughts are. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Will the charges stick? Which case will go first? Fani Willis, will she indict him? And of course, she is in Georgia. What do you think is going to happen here? This is a wild, wild time, wild, wild world. Will former President Trump be able to use this as political fuel? Wow. Will he take that walk outside, or will they take him underground to have him arraigned, to answer his charges? How will all of this play out? Call me at 773-763-9278. Brandon Johnson, one of the two men who would be mayor, will be on today. How did you like the interview with Paul Vallis yesterday? I have to thank him because he was supposed to be with me for about 20 minutes. He stayed for an hour and answered some tough questions, but it was the hour after the show that a lot of people are really talking about, because, boy, we all got into it, not with Paul Vallis, but with someone who's actually a friend of mine who supports Paul Vallis to the end. You want to ride or die. Ray Anderson is that for Paul Vallis. And there was a lot of back and forth. So please go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel so you can see it, hear it, feel it. Ooh, it was a whole lot. That other Santita came on out. I love it. I love it. So everybody, call me at 773-763-9278, because now we have an election on Tuesday. Same day, on-site voter registration. Reverend Jesse Jackson is going to get high school seniors and people who will be 18 by Tuesday to get out and vote. Get college students. Get people out to vote, everybody. And look, I have my preference of a candidate, but that having been said, I really think that we all need to vote. In order for this American project to work, we all need to be heard. And we all need to be engaged. We don't even teach civics anymore in many schools. What a shame, what a shame, what a shame. When you graduate, I agree with Reverend Jackson, you should have a diploma in one hand and a voter registration card in the other, because that makes you a citizen. We come out of high school, we think we're adults. Well, you're an adult when you have the right to vote, which is why we fought a civil war over getting us that in part. It was freeing black people. It was giving us citizenship and getting us the right to vote. Those are the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Don't ever take your right to vote, whether you're red, yellow, black, brown, or white. Don't take that for granted. You do not have a federally protected, a constitutional right to vote. It's a state's right. So it's something that we have to fight for every day. And you got to participate. So everybody, we'll be talking with Brandon Johnson in the next hour. I want to hear what your thoughts are about Donald Trump and about this mayoral election. Oh, let's get right to it here on the day before April Fool's Day. I feel like this is April Fool's Day. Is this a trick? No, it's not. March 31st. Friday, 2023. I am Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I'm going to get Matt McNeil on Monday, because so many people from all around the country are talking about this mayoral race here in Chicago. In Chicago, it's going to be spring-like today. 61 degrees will be the high. Scattered thunderstorms. Oh, I'm getting my hair done, but there it is. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 41 degrees. It will be rain. In the NBA, the Lakers will be facing off against the Timberwolves, and the Bulls will be facing off against the Hornets. Minnesota will have the night off, but the Blues were triumphant over Chicago, 5-3. Everybody is talking about former President Donald Trump, who was indicted by a Manhattan grand jury yesterday, marking the first time in U.S. history, according to this CNN report, that a current or former president has been criminally charged. Trump faces more than 30 counts related to business fraud, according to sources familiar with the case. In a fiery statement following the indictment, former President Trump called the move, quote, political persecution and election interference at the highest level in history, close quote. Former Vice President Mike Pence told CNN that charging the former president, quote, is a disservice to the country, close quote, that will only divide people further. Key House Republican leaders also lined up to defend former President Trump. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office has been investigating the former president in connection with his alleged role in a hush money payment scheme and cover-up involving adult film star Stormy Daniels that dates to the 2016 presidential election. So these charges are like 7 years old at least. So we'll see, everybody. Severe weather. This outbreak could impact nearly 70 million people today, from the Mississippi Valley to the Ohio and Tennessee valleys, according to meteorologists. The storm system, which already walloped the West with intense rain and snow, could now bring, quote, a concerning scenario, close quote, with intense wind gusts and several tornadoes. The Storm Prediction Center said forecasters are anticipating severe weather for millions along the Mississippi River, including portions of northeastern Arkansas, the Missouri and western Tennessee, parts of eastern Iowa, northwest Illinois. We're going to get some of that today in Chicago. And boy, God bless us all, everybody. There's so much going. And the first funeral connected with the tragedy in Nashville, the Nashville school shooting, is set for today. Emily, I believe it is Dykehouse, will be the first victim of Monday's shooting. Just 9 years of age, that sweet baby was, at the Covenant School. She will have her funeral service today. Then her family has asked that people wear spring colors, because that was something that their daughter loved, and she was the light of their lives. We pray for that family today, indeed. The pastor, senior pastor of the church affiliated with the school, was killed. Wow, you can't make this stuff up, everybody. God bless the people of Nashville today. God bless them, God bless them, God bless them. So those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. We have got Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. I'm so glad to be with you today. We've missed you, we've missed you, we've missed you. We got to get some good news. Of course, you got to get her book, I See You, Sis. Go to Amazon. I See You, Sis. It is a fantastic book. It will bless you, as it has blessed so many of us. Please get I See You, Sis today. My dear sister, what's going on with you? What is the good news?
Good morning, everyone.
You have a caller.
Thank you, as always, Santita, for allowing me to share. So today for the good news, I kind of want to take it back to basics. Do you remember as children, as we were taught the two most important things in the world to say was please and thank you? I have come to find out that the older I get, the longer I live, words matter. How we speak to each other matters. As a matter of fact, we know that great love text in chapter 13 of 1 Corinthians where it says that love is patient and love is kind, all of the attributes of love and how we should treat each other, and that when we speak, if we do so without love, we're just like a loud gong or a tinkering cymbal. I just want to remind us of that today because the opposite of love, most people would say, is hate. I tend to think it's control. But either way, when we fail to love and we choose to hate, we fail to properly communicate. If I speak in the tongues of men and angels but have not love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. Here's why that's problematic. It doesn't matter how well you speak or how eloquent you are. Unless your words are backed and fueled by love, they're empty. It's like tuning in every morning to Santita and not getting what you need because she's not speaking with love. She's not speaking with information. And so you're left with an empty feeling. Let me give you another example. It's the difference between roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you, and how do I love thee? Let me count the ways I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when feeling out of sight. That's love. I also love the way Paul uses the analogy of a gong. During the cultural context of that day, whenever a gong was hit, it was used to introduce or present something. When the gong was struck, it usually introduced royalty or was used to make an announcement. And so when we say things, when we begin to talk, people are expecting validation. People are expecting great things to come from our words, only to be
night in the sun.
because we continue to give them empty platitudes and churchy jargon, which does nothing to help them. Pope Francis says, I see the church as a field hospital after battle. It's useless to ask a seriously injured person if he has high cholesterol and about the level of his blood sugars. You have to heal his wounds. Then we can talk about everything else. That's what I want you all to know. We need to heal people with our words, and then we can talk about everything else. Paul also uses the symbolism of the symbol. He says empty words are like a tinkering cymbal. It's annoying. If you're trying to speak to someone and all you can hear is tinkering, it's annoying. Like your words without love, playing the cymbal on its own just sounds empty. And people become so preoccupied with the emptiness of our words, they don't focus on the message being delivered. It's like that great theologian James Brown said, like a dull knife that just ain't cutting, you talking loud and ain't saying nothing. And let me pause here to talk about the people who always say, well, I'm just being honest. Yeah, but honesty doesn't have to hurt. Long after the brutally honest have shared their truth, the recipient continues to feel the pain. And I want to know today, why does it have to be brutally honest? It should be helpfully honest, hopefully honest, healthfully honest. Brutally honest people are usually unaware of the harm they do by their words. Don't you know that people may not always remember what you said, but Dr. Maya Angelou said they will always remember how you made them feel. And practicing truth with compassion is a great way to speak a painful truth without disrespecting people. In our society, the term brutally honest is often accepted as a positive quality. But I take a moment to think about that. The two words are opposite. Brutal means savagely violent, while honest means morally correct. It's an oxymoron when we say brutally honest. And when you practice that oxymoron, it can make the recipient feel like a moron. And so we have to be more careful about our words. When I worked at Tiffany's years ago, customers would come in and ask sometimes for the most least expensive thing in the store. And I never passed judgment because I thought, you know what? It's an expensive store. Maybe they can't afford much and just want the Tiffany experience. They just want to take home something to say they had been to Tiffany's. But you know what I found out, Santita? All people really wanted was the box. They wanted the beautiful packaging, that blue box with the white ribbon that says Tiffany. What are you saying, Pastor? You're saying talk on its own is cheap, but when you wrap it in love and truth and compassion and put that little white bow on it, then it becomes something. A wise man's heart guides his mouth, and his lips promote instruction. Let's watch our words. Words matter. Don't hate, learn to appreciate. And that's the good news.
I love it. I love it. I had to laugh because, a friend of mine gave me a gift from Tiffany some years ago. And he said, come on over to the office. We're going to have dinner. It was your birthday, but I couldn't get to Chicago. I was like, okay, not a problem. And just got to wrap up some things. And so when I got to the office, we were talking, and we were going to go out to dinner. It was a Sunday, so, nothing was going on. And he brought out this box. Well, it was a bag from Tiffany's, and Tiffany's, you all have a magnificent presentation. And I just thought it was a box. I didn't know there was something inside. He said, honey, would you open it? I said, oh.
There's actually a president here.
But you know what? I think it was a thought. Because that was, at some point, my father said, your presence is always the present. That's the gift.
That's right.
And I thank you for that. Ooh, and do it with love, y'all, because, really, brutally honest, y'all just being mean, and it's your excuse. Well, at least I was telling the truth. No, you just being mean. You're going to pay for that.
The truth doesn't have to hurt.
No, it doesn't. And when it's wrapped in love, you're like, wow, they cursed me out, but I didn't know that at the time. Oh, okay. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, boy.
Deal with people that cut you don't know quite yet.
Yeah,
people that may cut you are willing to sew you back up.
Absolutely, absolutely. We love you, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. I see you, sis. I love you. I love you. I love you. Let me tell you this, Dr. Shanina Knighton, we are moving into this election season, and everybody is just absolutely into it. Do you mind if I bring on Pam? Pam has called in early, and I want to get her in. Pam, what's on your mind today, sweetie?
Thank you so much, Santita. And if I sound hoarse, it's not because I'm just waking up. It's because I went to the rally.
And you were screaming.
Santita, I'm going to be honest. I have not been to sleep because I was just so energized and just haven't come down yet.
The rally with Brandon Johnson and Bernie Sanders last night, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And they were excellent. But you know what the highlight for me was, Santita? And I'm not just saying this. It was seeing Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr.
Oh, bless your heart.
It was it brought tears to my eyes because he is still out there doing the doggone thing, getting people to vote, supporting candidates who care about the people. I saw Representative Jonathan Jackson, who I know is in the House chamber fighting for working class people. And then Bernie Sanders just come in talking about the Progressive Party and how it has made the Democratic Party do what is right for working class families. And then Brandon saying, I am humbled by your by being here. And thank you for your support. And then to see and hear Martin Luther King III to talk about the significance of April 4th. And then to talk about what voting meant to his father. And it wasn't the end, it was the beginning. That once we get Brandon in, we have to go all the way, whole time. The place was packed. It was a positive vibe, positive message. Representative, I think, is it
Dahlia Ramirez? Absolutely.
Yes, I'm trying to just name everyone.
Well, she is an absolute gem.
Yes.
She's an absolute gem.
And a powerhouse.
Yes.
Call up your friends, family, any and everybody you know can vote and who can register to vote. The power is with the people, Santita. I voted for Commissioner Johnson because I was supporting someone and voting for something. It wasn't just about being against someone. It's been a long time since I've had the opportunity to say that for mayor. And I appreciate you letting me say that. I'm going to everybody get out and vote. Early vote on April 4th. The power is with the people. This city can be what we want it to be and not what those wealthy or Republican-leaning people think.
Or let's just say,
We
or
have the
corporate-leaning people. Because you have Democrats and Republicans who favor corporations and not people. It's not a Republican thing. It's not a Democratic thing. It's a corporatist thing. And if we know that, we can be on guard when Democrats go in office, when Republicans go in office, when anyone who is not going to fight for me goes in office, Pam. I love you, girl. And yeah, my father was out there. He was so excited. I wish I could have been there last night. Stomach was bothering me just a little bit, but you know what? So many people, Kevin Lampy was there, so many people were there. And I was talking to my brother just before he got on the plane to get here, to get to that event. And of course, Martin Luther King III will be here in Chicago today, campaigning for Brandon Johnson. We love you, Pam. We love you, Pam. We love you, Pam. We love you, Pam. And love you. Get out and vote, everybody. Same day, on-site voter registration. Going to be talking with Dr. Shanina Knighton on the other side of the break. Get a few minutes from her about infection prevention in this post-COVID-19 moment. Indeed, the Senate, 68-23, said COVID-19, that's over. It's over. It's still here, but it's over. So what should you do to take care of yourself, to protect yourself? And then, of course, former President Donald Trump has been indicted. What will all of that mean? We got a tremendous panel to talk about that, and Brandon Johnson will be joining us in the second hour. Who could ask for more? The Santita Jackson Show. Meet my morning stars, Jewel and Barbara and Dave and Linear Bob and so many. Robert, love you all. Shirley from beautiful Philadelphia. Hope you can drink that water now. Mark Stevens from D.C. All of you, please meet them over on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel or the Santita Jackson and Friends page. And hey, all my friends, thank you for getting me over the hump. I'm now moving toward 20,000 people on Facebook. And if I could just get these other 5,000 or so to migrate over, we'd be in the mix. So everybody, go to Santita Jackson and Friends and like and share this show today. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Dr. Knighton? Is she still there?
I'm here. How are you?
Hey, sweetie, thank you for indulging me. She called early, and I want to encourage people to call. But could I give you about 3 to 4 minutes to talk about how we should behave in this post-COVID moment?
I don't think we post-COVID, so that's fine.
Oh, only Dr. Knighton would say something like that. Lord. Woo!
We ain't post-flu. We ain't post-RSV. We not post-Candida auris. We can post a lot of stuff.
Oh, well, just keeping it real. I love it. But it's true. We're not post anything. We're not. Y'all, it's just a lot. It's a lot.
60. What do we have planned for 60?
Hey, girl, you know what? I'm going to let you know because we're going to talk about that because I am going to do it around my birthday.
Good.
And, because I lost another one of my dear friends from college just a few days ago. And it prompted me calling some people who I hadn't talked to in a long time. But, it was like, when you've been when someone's part of your heart, they just, you pick up right where you left off. And everybody said, we have got to get together, like right away. And I said, you're right.
I agree.
So,
and I think that's an awesome time to do it, to be honest with you. I
will be calling you because we're going to do something that's going to be fun. And it will involve food and music. Ooh.
Look, that's always a good
Hello.
Food, music, and fellowship.
Oh, do you hear what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I might have to change things up just a bit. But I'm gonna call you later on today because I've gotta bifurcate it, of course I thought of you, although you have like a generation to get here. Cha-cha. But I'm not mad at you, girl. Let me show you how this is supposed to work. Yeah. Hey, Janet. Beautiful human. Jewel. Hey, look, I will be 60 this year, y'all, and I'm so happy about it. I am thrilled. Somebody said, you shouldn't say that. I'm like, honey, Google me. What? I'm not playing with that. If my father told me, if you don't like birthdays, try missing one. Okay. Oh boy, I remember wishing one of my dear friends happy birthday last year, and I'm like, I didn't realize, baby, this was going to be the last time I was going to be able to do that to you.
I know, and trust me, whatever it is, if we never do, right?
No. I'm like...
1 minute.
Oh, who do we have? Do we have anybody up yet, Alex?
No, I'm going to call them as soon as I hear Dr. Knighton on the air.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I know they are waiting for you, so try and get them up as soon as you can. Thank you, hon.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Everyone give Alex Castaneda a round of applause. He has been doing a fantastic job. I mean, he is board operator extraordinaire.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jackson.
Oh, you are. I think you do a fantastic job. You're so thorough, and I love that. And when you don't know, you ask, and that's how you learn.
Yes, ma'am.
I just think that you are just the bee's knees. See, that's what old folks say.
10 seconds.
Oh, the mature. How about that? Ow!
Stand by.
Okay, stand by, everybody.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Some really incredible things are happening. We have got the mayor's race. We're going to have Brandon Johnson on in the next hour. And, of course, we had Paul Vallis on yesterday. If you want to hear that hour-long discussion that we had, please go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel or to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. It's the hour after the third hour, as it turned out, of the Santita Jackson Show that a lot of people are talking about, but so was, the interview with Paul Vallis. We were able to get a lot in, and to his credit, every time I've asked Mr. Vallis to be on, he has come on, and he has always extended his time, much to the consternation of his staff, sometimes, and I get that. I really do. I had to call them and just say, look, I didn't mean to hold him over, and my apologies if that became problematic, because, they need to be protective, but he's a tough guy and wanted to speak with you, and so I give him a lot of credit for that, and I respect those of you who are lining up with different candidates. I have my preference, but that really should not and does not enter into how I host this show. I want you to have information, and then you make your decision, and we're all going to agree or disagree without being disagreeable, always loving each other, all right? All right, so let's get right to it. Call me at 773-763-9278. We're going to talk about the Trump indictment and this election. But first, we're going to be talking with Dr. Shanina Knighton about what we should do. This brilliant infection preventionist, talk with her, this registered nurse, this college lecturer. How do we behave in this post-COVID era? Going to talk about 3 or 4 minutes, and I want her to help us because, the U.S. Senate said 68-23, COVID's over. That's it. We're moving on. No more emergency that was declared in March of 2020. That's over. Boom. But you said COVID's not over, Dr. Knighton.
Good morning. No, it's not. I think in regards to how we've been responding to COVID may be over, and that may be what's being said, but it doesn't mean that people still aren't getting sick. It doesn't mean that people still aren't being harmed from it. It still doesn't mean that it's not floating around. It still doesn't mean that it's not transmittable. So I think the way in which it's defined, unfortunately, is what disturbs me when the information makes it out to the public. because it's not with clarity in the fact that
Chappelle Wells is on. Reverend Wilson is on. I'm continuing to call the rest.
other things. My other concern is with it saying like it is over, meaning that what we don't account for is the same thing that we don't account for with flu, in that the numbers, like within themselves, does not necessarily mean that we haven't come to a norm. So what that means is when flu comes around every year, Santita, there's a certain number of cases that are expected. There's a certain number of people that are expected to die. That's still not okay because somebody is dying and somebody is being harmed. And so when those words are always saying like, oh, the pandemic is over, it does mean that we have come to a place of where we know how many cases to expect per year, but it doesn't mean that people still aren't being harmed. So with that, I emphasize, please continue to practice infection prevention and control because the bad consequences of COVID that we recognized before are still prevalent.
Dr. Shanina Knighton, everybody. Her handle in social media is Hey Dr. Nina. Hey Dr. Nina. HEYDRNINA. Please be vigilant. Continue. There's some takeaways from COVID that we need to have. Washing our hands, really building up our immune systems, eating properly. There are things that we should continue to do going forward. And I'm so grateful that we have you to help us to win our way through this because infection prevention is now something that people talk about because you don't have to get COVID. You don't have to get the flu. You don't have to get any of these illnesses. So we love you, Dr. Shanina Knighton. All right now, we love you. Everybody, let's talk about Donald Trump. Let's talk about voting in this mayoral race here in Chicago. Bernie Sanders was here last night. Thousands upon thousands showed up to hear him and to show out for Brandon Johnson. What do you think about that? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT, and all of my morning stars, like and share the show today. Like and share the show, and like and share on the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook. Please like and share, and then like and subscribe on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please do that right away. So let's talk about what's happening here. Well, let me go to you very quickly. Chappelle Wells, Chappelle Celebrations by Us. You got a minute? Go, girl. Springtime.
Good morning, Santita. Thank you so much. At Celebrations by Us, we are gearing up for Easter, so we're taking a few orders for your sides, like your dressing, your mac and cheese, your greens and your green beans, as well as also your peach cobbler, your banana pudding, and your caramel cakes. So give us a call at 708-526-4546. 708-526-4546. We're also doing prom setup as well as also balloon arches, sweet tables, custom backdrops, whatever it is that you need. Call us at 708-526-4546. We look forward to serving you. Thank you so much, Santita.
Blessings to you. All right, let's get right to it. I don't know what to go to first. Well, you know what? We're going to have Brandon Johnson in the next hour, but if you want to call about this big rally last night and this tighter than this race, all one word, all squunched up together, you can call me about that. And you can also talk about something that is unprecedented. We have never had an American president be indicted before, a former president. Indeed, that is something that that Gerald Ford really opted. He did not want us to see Richard Nixon do the perp walk, if you will. He said it would just do something not only to the presidency, it will do something to us if we watch President Nixon indicted. So I'm going to pardon him and we're going to move on. Now, many people feel that that cost him the election in 1976, but other people felt that he really helped to save the Union, that he helped Americans to move on. So what do you think about what's happening with former President Trump? What do you think about this? Of course, we have gotten orders. I'm going to be coming to you in a hot second, but we've got Reverend Jeanette Wilson, Esquire, and we've got Attorney Robert Patillo. It's been a minute. We're so glad to have you. Attorney Robert Patillo, I know I've seen you all over Roland Martin show, all these other people. I was feeling some kind of way. I said, he doesn't love me anymore. But we love you. We love you. Of course, I'm having fun with you because I want you to be everywhere because you are so brilliant and you're so insightful. And it seems like this Trump story was made for you. You and Dwight McKee said that he would possibly be facing indictment and that it would turn, Dwight McKee said it would turn a monster into a martyr. I'll call him a menace into a martyr. And that could happen. And before we move on to the Chicago election, what is happening here? Then my questions are rooted in this. Michael Cohen, upon the evidence that he brought forth, is the basis upon which these charges have been brought, right? But he was charged federally. Former President Trump is given state charges. What is going on here? What is this?
Well, I think the biggest question we still have is when will the 34-count indictment be unsealed so we know exactly what the charges are against President Trump? I highly doubt that they would have gone through all this hoopla over a...
You have a caller, Dwight McKee, still no answer.
...issue. So I think that indicates that there's more there than we perhaps think, because in order for a tampering with documents charge to be charged as a felony, it has to be in furtherance of an additional crime. So that's the $54,000 question now. What is the additional crime? Is it a federal campaign finance law? Is it another state-level felony that perhaps people are not aware of that President Trump may have committed? So I think that's what we're going to be looking for, either if the information is unsealed today or next week, particularly when President Trump goes in to be arraigned on those charges. So I think many of the people who are breathlessly making hot takes over the next 48 hours or so, we'll need to pump the brakes a little bit until we know exactly what he's charged with, because that'll give us a better idea of exactly what he's fighting against and what the charges are. And I think President Trump has done everything he can to monetize it and turn himself into the victim in this situation. So the prosecutors, as I said in The Wire, if you're going to come for the king, you best not miss. So I'm hoping they have an airtight case, because if President Trump's able to beat this rap, it only makes him stronger going forward.
Well, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, what is going on here? I mean, but why is the case still sealed? Why don't we know what he's been charged with? I mean, what's going on? There's more than 30 charges.
Well, as I said, when he's arraigned next week, we probably will know what the charges are. There may be either jury issues or logistical issues as to why the information has to be unsealed yet, but this is probably going to only be the first of a cascade of charges against President Trump. I think we'll probably get charges from the Fulton County case within the next 30 days. I think we'll have some clarity on the special counsel investigation with Jack Smith within the next month or so. So it's going to be the dominant story in American politics over the course of the next year. Will be the fate of President Trump while he continues to try to run for president, while also having arraignments, while having the discovery, while having all the other parts of a criminal trial taking place, which is absolutely insane. The biggest problem I think President Trump runs into by running concurrently is that he now is very much in a Gordian knot. Because on the one hand, the easiest way out of this legally would be to make some arguments on the technical aspects of it in order to try to get dismissal. That doesn't really work for him politically, because at some point he's going to have to make a Clinton-esque statement. I did not have sex with that woman, Miss Clifford, etc. And if he does so, that opens the door to perjury charges, which puts him in further danger legally. However, if he does not do so, imagine him running as a Christian conservative in parts of the country after on video having to admit to his dalliances with this lady of the evening, as it would be. So it's going to be a very interesting outcome. I'm not quite sure what the strategy will be as to getting around that, because at some point the rubber's going to hit the road, and he's either going to have to admit to the affair or deny the affair, both of which are raw decisions.
Well, I mean, politically, is there an upside for him? Is there a downside? I mean, we see, running. It just seems that people don't care, Robert. and I'm going to ask you about this too, Reverend Wilson. I mean, people don't care about him with Stormy Daniels. Folks just want their money. Because I've seen that, because it seems all so relative. We get upset with some people about some things, and then we forgave him for a whole lot of things, and others more and more. We just don't care.
I think in the short term, it's absolutely helpful for President Trump. He's raised probably close to $2 million since he initially tweeted out that he will be arrested on Tuesday. He has dominated the headlines. Imagine being, Nikki Haley right now, trying to get some oxygen in this race, or Tim Scott, who said he's going to announce, or even Ron DeSantis, who was at Georgia State Capitol this week campaigning for president. For the Republican primary, this took all the air out of the room. But I think President Trump has a reasonable argument of saying, George W. Bush killed 1 million Iraqis. Y'all are hunting me down over paying off a porn star. President Obama had a drone war that killed thousands of civilians throughout the Middle East. And y'all over here bothering me, etc. And I think that him painting himself as a victim in the interim will be great as far as getting through the Republican primary and clearing the field out. But when it comes to a general election season, if you're President Biden, this is nothing but good news for you, because right now the entire world press could be on the fact that China just negotiated a deal between themselves, Saudi Arabia, and Iran to settle oil purchases in the Chinese yuan. Then they made a military alliance with Russia, and then yesterday they made an economic alliance with Brazil to settle purchases with them in the yuan, challenging the global hegemony of the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. So if you're Biden, you love these headlines because it takes the spotlight off of you, and it makes the entire political discussion around President Trump, while it has time for President Biden to regain his footing and hopefully get his poll numbers back together.
I mean, Reverend Wilson, I want you all to continue to call me. Otis, I'll be coming to you very shortly. 773-763-9278. We can talk about this. We can talk about the mayoral campaign. There is a whole lot going on. I'm going to talk to you, Reverend Wilson, and then, of course, Dwight McKee, who you and Dwight, I'm going to give you all the beanies that Johnny Carson used to wear, Karnak, the Magnificent. You all are the prophets. I mean, Dr. Reverend Wilson, they predicted all of this, and people thought they were nuts. They were nuts.
Dwight McKee's on.
What do you make of this before we go to Dwight? Because I want him to explain himself. Because I'm like, are you sitting up in the office or what?
Well, I think that the indictment was absolutely coming, and there was no question about Trump being indicted. And the Attorney General, State's Attorney, had the courage to move forward and decide that no man or woman is above the law, no matter what their position or former position in the United States government has been. And so, obviously, this has got to be a serious series of charges, because lawyers just can't do stuff without putting themselves in personal jeopardy if he brings a frivolous charge against a former sitting president. So I think this indictment is pretty serious, and probably charges the president with some felony. I have no idea what the charges are, because they have sealed the indictment for, I think, the protection of the jurors and the district attorney. It is. Trump has threatened to call for people to march and riot in streets across America. He is using this indictment for his own political purposes. And so I think that's why it's sealed. And when they read the charges, Trump is going to try to elicit a public response from those who follow him blindly, unfortunately. And as Robert has outlined, this is not going to be the only one. This was just a trial balloon of indictments. When people take this long to investigate and convene a grand jury, that prevents the other side from having any opportunity to cross-examine any witness that the state may put forth. So the first time that the defense has anything to do with it is after the charges have been read in open court, and then motions will follow, pretrial motions will follow. This is, I think, quite serious, and we've never had a U.S. president face this kind of stuff. But Trump feels like he's invincible. He is the only Superman that's ever been in the White House. So I don't know what his kryptonite will be. This district attorney is quite brave and unrelenting, and I think something's going to come out of Georgia as well. So these cases are just going to fall one behind the other. Now, whether or not he goes to jail is another matter. That's going to be what Biden might do to.
You have another caller.
In terms of pardoning, because he can't pardon himself, though he thinks he can.
Whew, I mean, Dwight McKee, what do you think?
I go back to my premise the other day. Why would you make a monster into a martyr? And Robert is exactly correct. You remember in Godzilla when they would pump him in with electricity trying to kill him? And electricity would only make him stronger. That's really what you're doing with Donald Trump. Is that he had enough counter momentum that he may have during the elections just faded away quietly. But now you pumped him in with all this momentum, all of this energy. You've united the party around him when they were divided against him. You've given him a pretext to raise money, and you've confirmed all of the theories and the hypotheses of the mega group that America is nothing but a conspiracy to take out the deep state is a conspiracy to take Donald Trump out because they're afraid of him and they're afraid that he really is the salvation of the people. You confirmed all of that because you bring all these frivolous suits against him. You tried to impeach him 2 times and failed. You've muddied up his reputation, which was already sufficiently muddy, but now it looks political rather than authentic. It's just a bad strategy. I don't understand what these people are thinking. He revels in this. And like I said, because it's given him a presence and a platform that he didn't have. And it's going to be international. And now people are going to be lining up on both sides. Why would you do this? It's just bad strategy. I don't understand it. The charges won't stick. Because, again, if you get a jury trial, it's going to be hard to find 12 Democrats who's going to rise up against Donald Trump on one jury and convict him. And all you need is one Republican or one doubtful Democrat to not convict him. And your best shots have been rubber bullets. It's just foolish to me.
Well, let me get some of the people want to talk about this. They want to talk about the election. So let me get right to some of these callers. Otis, what's on your mind today?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Otis.
I'm listening and I'm thinking about Johnson when he said that in his campaign and about people keep saying he want to keep the kids in schools on the weekend. That's not a good idea. I don't think that's a good idea because you're stressing the kids out by keeping them in just because the violence on the street. Keeping kids in school is not the answer. What you're going to see, you're going to see a rise in family violence between kids and parents because they're going to be stressed out and not want to go to school. And you're going to have kids who are going to protest. And I haven't heard Johnson say anything yet about what he's going to do for black economics either. So I'm just wondering.
I think he has been. I think he's had an economic plan now. Because if you have equity, and if you really begin to level the playing field, that helps absolutely helps black entrepreneurs. I mean, because the fact is, it's the inequity and the inequality that locks us out.
Right. And I think that the 4 years that he's going to first 4 years, if he just get 4 years, he should go ahead and dominate it and just do a lot of things for black people to help us out. Because it's our turn now to come on up like other races. But just keeping the kids in for the weekend on the schools, I just think that culture centers and have kids attracted to black culture centers, fund them so they can take these kids on trips like Africa and stuff like that, and they can see what's going on.
Well, you know, Mr. Otis.
idea.
But what do you think about Mr. Vallis's plan to keep schools open longer? I mean, because he's pretty much saying they're both kind of saying the same thing on that. They want these schools to be open and to serve food and what. So they're both saying that. So what do you?
Okay, Vallis is daily 2.0.
Okay.
Anybody can see that. All he's talking about is the police. And every time you hear about him talking about police and violence, I get this image of the old image of the neo-Nazis marching down the street. That's what's going to happen to the black community. Because we're the poster child of crime and violence. Every time they talk about it, you see that image. It's just like saying, I love Jesus and Jesus love everybody. Then you get this white image of Jesus in your head, but you got to try to block it out and say, wait a minute, he's black. That's how I look at Vallis. He's daily 2.0. Everybody know that.
Otis has said it. Have you voted yet? Otis?
I'll wait till the day and vote.
Okay. All right. Just make sure that you do.
I've been going through a whole lot of family deaths and stuff like that.
Bless your
From
heart.
diseases, them not taking care of themselves and stuff.
Well, you take care of yourself, okay?
All right. Thank you. I appreciate
sweetie.
it.
No, thank you. God bless you, Otis. People are going through a whole lot, everybody. So, hey, Max Myrick and Renee, everybody, and I'm going to get to the callers and get to you as we've been talking about President Trump. And as former President Trump, who's been indicted, wow, what is that going to look like? Will he do the perp walk? I mean, the plan, from what I'm hearing, is that they will drive him underground so that he can, because he's a former president of the United States. He is under the protection of the Secret Service. You can't just walk him through the front door. But he just might decide to do that, the optics of it. What did you say, Dwight? White Turner, what?
March into a martyr.
Oh, boy. I said menace, but I'm feeling you. That's what's happening, everybody. Call us at 773-763-9278. Back in just a minute. Whew.
Even Pence is defending Donald Trump. I mean,
you can't make this stuff up.
I think this is a critical moment because, see, he's fighting for his viability, which for him means more than any of this stuff. He doesn't care about being indicted. This gives him a theater that he can use to talk about. They've been targeting him for years, which he has been charged with crimes before.
So why did they give it to him?
So,
I mean, why did they do that? I mean, they didn't do something to him. They did something for him. I mean, because I'm trying to figure out how it is that you charge the guy who's presenting all the information on Trump, who went to jail. He went to jail on federal charges. They're charging Trump on state charges. That is already strange to me. Would you explain that?
I can't explain why they're making these decisions, and I think this particular prosecutor, it's personal with him. He's had death threats on his life, so he's just proceeding because it does not appear. It has to be a stronger case than we know, because there's no way I would put my legal career or my life in jeopardy with some case that has no validity to it. No, as Reverend would say, no, they're there. However, I think this is a trial balloon. I believe other indictments are going to come. You got D.C. and Atlanta. The January 6th, and then the whole Atlanta of how he was manipulating votes. So I don't think this is the only indictment against him.
Well, Dr. Robert Starks will be on it in a minute, and he said, make sure you remind people that these are black prosecutors who are going after him, which already makes me a little suspicious, because I'm like, why are you letting black folks do this? Look,
well, because we're always the one.
I'm a little paranoid. I'm a I'm like, wait, you all don't let me. I can't even become a partner in a top drawer law firm. Okay, and the black prosecutors are progressive. Y'all are trying to put him out of office. So now you give this to me? Is this my gift, or are you serious? I'm just trying to figure. I'm just asking some questions now because I'm just trying to figure out why you giving me this gift.
Because you're fool enough to take it. I mean, some things you say, no, I don't. Somebody told me to do something. No, I'm not going to do that.
No.
That means I'm committing suicide. No. You go.
I'm gonna let him. No, y'all handle Trump. You created him, so you handle him.
I would say they're after you. I'm not going to put my life, my career on the line for this.
Wait a minute, no, you go first. Remember Mikey in the cereal commercial? Yeah. Yeah. Give it to Mike. Yeah. He'll try. He'll eat anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dwight,
Kevin
I'm
Lampy
serious.
and Dr. Starks are on.
Some people.
Why are you giving it to me?
But Santita, what is in the kind of one of the fun and ironic parts?
What else is ironic?
So President Trump, part of the strongest case against him is this Fulton County case, because even if convicted on the New York case, he'd be facing even for a felony, 4 years in prison, likely no jail time. The Fulton County case could have a maximum of 20 years in prison, so he could actually face actual prison time. And so, because it's a state-level charge, the president, regardless of who it was, could not pardon him, but the governor of Georgia will be able to pardon him. So the same Brian Kemp President Trump has been calling corrupt for the last 4 years, the same Brian Kemp that he financed David Perdue to run against the primary, the same Brian Kemp that he calls a rhino and everything else, will be in charge of determining whether or not President Trump gets pardoned or whether or not he spends the rest of his natural days in prison.
Maybe you can't make this stuff up. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on because they have just blown him up. If they had stopped mentioning him after he lost, over and out. But every single day, every network, all they do is talk about Trump, Trump, Trump. You can't even let Biden be president for Trump, 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 Trump. And now this.
Well, networks know and news outlets know what gets ratings, and Trump way more ratings than anything Biden does.
Okay. I just think this is a lot. Kevin Lampy, Dr. Starks.
Yes, how you doing?
Good morning.
My allergies are really acting up, so I apologize for coughing.
No, that's okay. I'm glad I took some allergy medicine this morning because my eyes were like.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
And headaches, yeah, absolutely.
Miserable. I said, wait a minute, maybe I should take allergy medicine. Boy, I was able to put that because I couldn't put my lashes on. That was going to be the problem, Jeanette.
I understand your pain.
Oh, look, I went to dinner with this guy a few years ago, and he said, "Oh, your eyes are so beautiful, and your lashes." I was like, "You do know they're fake, right?" These are not real. This is not even an optical illusion. Don't pull. Nuts.
Please don't touch them.
Don't touch them. I wouldn't let you touch them. No, we're sitting across each other at the table. It's your eyes. I was like, oh, gosh. This guy, what a nut. No, my lashes don't go a half inch out. What? Yeah, there you go. But so call me at 763-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Everyone wants to talk about this mayoral campaign as well because that was a big deal. Kevin Lampy, you were there last night. We're about to come up. Pam was the first caller. She said she was hoarse.
30 seconds.
She's been screaming. She was so energized by that rally. I can't wait for you to tell us about it. Stay right there. Coming up in about 15 seconds.
Ten seconds.
Mm-hmm.
This?
Stand by.
Stand by, everybody. We can hear everything.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Before the hour's out, we'll be talking with Brandon Johnson on the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, and the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, everybody. Please get on over there. Meet Dave over there. And the Santita Jackson and Friends page, we are streaming live on Santita Jackson and Friends on Facebook, and the Santita Jackson Show on YouTube. Everybody, it is Friday, March 31st, 2023. It's a joy to be with you today as we are just days away from electing a new mayor in Chicago. Who will it be, Brandon Johnson or Paul Vallis? If you want to hear we did 2 hours of Paul Vallis yesterday. We spoke with him for an hour, and then we had quite the conversation, Dwight. Woo-hoo! For an hour after we got off air. Was that a lot, Dwight McKee?
Yeah, we did.
Y'all don't want to miss it. Go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Everybody like and share. But we'll be talking with Brandon Johnson before the show is over about what he sees. Everybody, he is surging. And yet it's a tight race, everybody. Everybody is predicting, Kevin Lampe, that this is going to be a tight race. Can't wait to hear what your thoughts are, particularly in light of all of the energy that you had at the rally last night, of course, headlined by Bernie Sanders, everybody. And so call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278, and join Dwight McKee, Attorney Robert Patillo, Reverend Jeanette Wilson, Esquire, Kevin Lampe, and our professor, Dr. Robert Starks. Call us at 773-763-9278. Let's get some of these headlines out the way so we can get on with the rest of the show. In Chicago, it will be spring-like today, 61 degrees, but scattered thunderstorms. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 41 degrees and rain. In the NBA, the Lakers will be facing off against the Timberwolves, and the Bulls will be facing off against the Hornets. In the NHL, the Wild, they had the night off, but not Chicago. I know they probably wish they had. They went down to the Blues, 5-3, everybody. Former President Donald Trump, according to this CNN report, was indicted by a Manhattan grand jury yesterday, marking the first time in U.S. history that a current or former president has been criminally charged. He faces more than 30 counts related to business fraud, according to sources familiar with the case. In a fiery statement following the indictment, he called the move, quote, political persecution and election interference at the highest level in history, close quote. Former Vice President Mike Pence told CNN that charging the former president, quote, is a disservice to the country, close quote. Key House Republican leaders also lined up to defend former President Trump. We will see where all of this goes. A severe weather outbreak could impact nearly 17 million Americans today, from the Mississippi Valley to the Ohio and Tennessee valleys, according to meteorologists. This storm system, which has already walloped the West with intense rain and snow, could now bring, quote, a concerning scenario. That is how they put it, with intense winds, gusts, and several tornadoes. The Storm Prediction Center said. The first funeral connected to the Nashville school shooting is set for today. It will be the first of 6 funerals as we look at the other victims. 3 children, 3 adults, 3 9-year-old children, 3 adults are scheduled for this weekend and early next week. God bless the people of Nashville. Those are just some of the headlines. On Tuesday, we will be electing a new mayor in Chicago. Who you got? Brandon Johnson or Paul Vallis? It is tight. Indeed, Paul Vallis said something really striking yesterday. I hope you didn't miss this. He said, look, a lot of black folks support me, Santita, but they don't feel they can come out and say it, so they're doing it very quietly. They've all come back to me very quietly, and I believe that. I believe it. So I want to know what your thoughts are, everybody. Call me at 773-763. Said a lot of people who've come out for Brandon Johnson publicly are supporting me privately. I believe that. Yes, I do. I've seen it with my own eyes. Whew. Boy, this is what a time, what a time. This is an exciting time to be alive. Let me go to Gregory. Gregory, what's on your mind today?
Well, good morning, Ms. Jackson. I was at the University of Chicago Logan Center debate between Brandon Johnson and Paul Vallis, hosted by Sasha.
Hold on one moment. Do you have your radio on, Gregory? Okay, turn that down because we're getting feedback. Okay, because we want to hear everything you've got to say. Okay.
Okay, I attended this debate hosted by Chicago Public Radio, Sasha and Simons, yesterday evening at the Logan Center, and then didn't realize that afterward Mr. Johnson was going to make a whirlwind beeline down to the UIC pavilion there at Harrison and Racine at the Circle campus. And by the time I made my way down there, I came in the middle of, towards the middle of his remarks, and got to see an ecstatic political rally that reminded me of the one that your father gave at my alma mater, UC Berkeley, in 1984, when he was running for president, and he was present there yesterday evening, as you well know. But it was just a very joyous, ecstatic event, and the youth are really behind him, the ones who are really behind him. But I wanted to call to say that I'm still frustrated by, as I told Sasha and Simons and John Esposito, at the short form format that we have, where they don't have time to really explicate and expound on things like a college professor would. And I'm proposing, I've asked Ms. Esposito, asked her fellow proctors of our political culture, as I put it, to try to offer that sometime in the future, where they could talk for 20 minutes each, and then we can respond. And I think when you hear Brandon Johnson saying he's been fired everywhere he goes, he's failed upward, these are kind of cheap shots, just like the one I got in trouble with the 3 p.m. Sunday host on your channel about saying we need the 3-year-olds to get on the right track, not the gangbanger track. She didn't like me using that characterization because it wasn't objective and clinical enough about young people who get into crime. And so I said I felt like I needed to say that to be heard because I didn't have time. And people were commenting, and the ladies afterwards even asked me what I thought, and they agreed. And on social media, you see people saying that Brandon is being too negative with these remarks against his opponent, especially in the runoff, where you want to be more diplomatic. And I just think that, it does a disservice to the critical importance and dignity of this race for mayor of Chicago to have only the short format. Why did his contracts not get renewed? What was it mutual? What were his accomplishments and his failures? And was it because of limited budgets that he worked with, and he didn't feel that he had the position to come in and embarrass the mayor, who invited him in, to call for the corporate community to step up to the plate? All right, that's my statement. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, no, you know what? Kevin Lampy, why don't you speak to that? Because indeed, these lawyers, and thank you so much, because I would love to hear. I love conversations, and I love to hear people explain themselves and give context to their experiences. But you brought us G. Flint Taylor and Patrick Cowlin, two of the most esteemed civil rights lawyers in Chicago and in and they and other civil rights lawyers and civil rights advocates and paralegals have come up with a very detailed explication, if you will, of why they are supporting Brandon Johnson. Why don't you respond to what you just heard?
Well, it is. You need the facts. You need to research, and you need to make a decision. What happened with this group of civil rights lawyers is they dug deep into the records of each of the candidates. They looked at what they were saying, and they discovered that Paul Vallis was the wrong choice, and that Brandon Johnson should be the next mayor of Chicago. In fact, your listeners could go to tinyurl.com/lawyers-endorse and read a letter written by these attorneys that are dedicated to protecting people's human rights, protecting people's civil rights, and they have an analysis that, frankly, is amazing. I've never seen a letter endorsing the candidate with so many footnotes. There's 2 pages of footnotes. It reminded me of back in high school learning how to write a research paper. It was thoroughly researched, and what they found is, Paul Vallis at the Philadelphia schools, under his reign there, violence went up 345%. Violence in the classroom, and just the record of destruction that he has done to education systems all around this country is something that should give everybody a pause and take a look at. Let's look at a public school teacher, not a private school profiteer.
Dr. Robert Starks, where do you see this election now? Many people saying that this is going to be tight. No one's going to run away with this.
I think it will be tight, but I think Brandon will win. And Lampy, you're absolutely correct. That letter from the civil rights lawyers is absolutely devastating to Paul Vallis. And I just wish more people would read it, because they absolutely lay out every single civil rights violation, educational violation that was committed by Mr. Paul Vallis. And maybe we can share that on Facebook so that more people can get a chance to read it. But it is absolutely devastating, and we should take those points and spread them all over the city. It's going to be a tight race. There's no doubt about that. But he will win, and someone suggested that if and when Mr. Vallis loses by a small percentage, that he will call for a recount. I think that's crazy. But yes, and the reason I think he's going to win is that the African American community is now finally really ready to come out in large numbers, and we will have a big turnout in the African American community supporting Brandon Johnson. That's my prediction.
Oh, 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Dwight McKee, what do you see?
I agree with Brother Starks, is that I think that they finally got a momentum and got it in.
Yes.
I think that what has happened is that, we talked the other week about Brandon can't run a campaign, he has run a crusade.
Right.
That's the kind of fervor I'm beginning to see with the election, from Sharpton when he came in and the energy he brought, to Bernie Sanders and the energy he brought. And Dr. King brings another, both a serenity and a presence and a legacy that the irony of it being his father's death date just gives it almost some spiritual context and some sense of destiny, I think he brings to the table. So I totally agree with Starks. I think that Brandon has the momentum, and the more Vallis is exposed, the less his case becomes viable and legitimate. It's redundant, but I think it's not legitimate.
Right. And Santita, the other thing, you quoted Vallis as saying that African Americans are supporting me, but they're undercover, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me just tell you, there are thousands of white people in this city who are supporting Brandon that are not verbal in their support, but they will come out on Election Day and support Brandon. You will see thousands of white voters voting for Brandon on the northwest side, the lakefront, and the southwest side.
Why do you think that is?
Because, as McGee just said, Dwight just said, there's momentum. The momentum with Bernie Sanders, with Elizabeth Warren, with Al Sharpton, with Common supporting, and it's my understanding that Chance the Rapper might have.
Reverend Wilson is off.
So the young people are both in all races, and of course with the fact that Reverend Jackson energize young people in high school to vote with his rally. So this is going to change the whole spectrum on every section of the city.
773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Robert Patillo, this election it's of national significance. I was reading an article, in the New Yorker. They were saying, this is like the big Democratic contest, between the centrist Democrat and the progressive Democrat. I mean, the New York Times wrote about this, with the CTU versus the Chicago Teachers Union versus the police union. I mean, how do you see this race just outside of Chicago? But, and understanding that Harold Washington's race was a national race. Even Karen Bass's race in L.A., these are national races. They resonate with all of us in a profound way. Why does this resonate all across the country, this particular race?
Well, the reason it resonates is we see this often, that the problems of big cities are the problems of big cities. And they're very rarely distinctive, whether it's Chicago or Baltimore or Atlanta or New York. And if you notice a few years ago when we had the wave of, I called them the Black Girl Magic mayors, Keisha Lance Bottoms, Mayor Cantrell, Mayor Bowser, on down the line, they kind of all came in the same way and all hit very similar problems. Right now, the question in many large cities is this question of crime and how cities will address it. Will we have a law and order, take back the streets, hire 10,000 new officers, and lock up a whole generation of young people in order to provide domestic tranquility? Or will we continue down the pathway of police reform to stop police brutality while also having restorative justice that's necessary to save the next generation instead of simply incarcerating them? That's a very important decision and distinction, and I think that's something that Chicago will be very much the canary in the coal mine on. Secondarily will be this issue of education. How much will we prioritize it? How much will cities be willing to invest in it? And what can be done to fix the system? Because whether you're in a city like Chicago or a city like Tampa, Florida, you're still dealing with very similar issues of exactly how much money to allocate and what educational methods are actually effective in this 21st century environment, particularly this post-COVID world, to get this next generation reinterested and reacclimated to schooling and put in a position where they can actually succeed. So many of the big issues that we see fighting out in the Chicago race, we're going to see fighting out nationally. And I think many candidates who are making their decisions on if they're going to run or how they're going to run are going to be looking at this race as a model as to what is effective and what will get them across the finish line.
773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Everybody like and share on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe, and please become my friend on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Like and share, everybody. Share this show. Why do you think, you were with us yesterday, Dwight McKee, it was not lost on me when Mr. Vallis said, a lot of black folks support me, but they have come to me quietly and they've said, I can't support you publicly. In fact, I'm going to have to support someone else publicly. But I really like you. And we heard this impassioned defense of Mr. Vallis yesterday from a very dear friend of mine. Went to Whitney Young together, and his mother was a much honored police officer. Ray Anderson. So talk to me. Why would some people be afraid to come out and support him?
Well,
you have a caller.
That some of these people are just hitting their bets. I think that some of these people are not sure whether or not Vallis is going to win. And so they're saying to him off the record, Vallis, you got my vote, you got my support, I can't do it publicly, just in case he wins. And then they have a parachute they can float down on his side of the ledger. But the fact of the matter is that they're also hitting their bets with Brandon, and publicly saying we support Brandon, we support Brandon, we support Brandon. I think it's some folks that's playing too much against the middle. Now, from my experience yesterday, there are some black people who are ardent, valid supporters. And for reasons, their own reasons. Maybe they're impressed with, Val's historic performance. Maybe they're impressed with his commitment to, say, public safety. Or maybe they themselves are looking for deals that they can cut and expect contracts or positions. I think they have their own motives, but I think that many of them that are whispering in Alice's ear in the nighttime, is really Nicodemus that is trying to hedge their bets, just in case Jesus really is the Son of God. Just in case.
Oh my goodness. We're going to have Brandon Johnson in a few minutes. Someone put Dwight McKee on mute. I mean, Kevin Lampy. This race gets crazier by the day, Kevin. I mean, and you were saying that you heard something. I've got about a minute and a half before we go to break. You said you heard something, because you are a political scientist, but you are also, a political operative. Because he was supposed to be on for 20 minutes, he stayed for an hour. You said, I think his internal numbers are showing them that he needs every single vote. Can you speak to that, Kevin?
Absolutely. I mean, running campaigns for what I can probably just say, a few decades now. In the closing days of the campaign, you can tell in the candidate's voice, and you can hear it in the subtext of how they're saying, how they're modulating their voices, how they're using them. Candidate is either very confident or they're very, very concerned and a little scared. And I heard Paul Vallis's voice yesterday. That was somebody who I don't think it's possible that I could win. I think it's very possible that I'm losing, and probably his internal polling numbers are showing him that. Now, last night, when I was watching and in the room listening to Brandon Johnson, I think that moment last night was he said, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to be mayor." And it was amazing. He gave a speech that the energy in it was just electrifying. And I ran into Reverend Paul Jakes who helped us on the Beer Day case. And Reverend Jakes said, I felt like this was 1983 all over again, and when we're listening to Harold.
Well, I think we can look back and we need to look forward, because the fact is, one of the lessons that we must learn from our not too distant past is that even when whoever gets in, you're going to have to advocate for your position. Don't abdicate. Advocate. You must. That is the voting is the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. You've got to go to city council meetings. You must tell the mayor whether you voted, whether you got who you wanted, or you got who you felt that you needed. You got to advocate for your position. Otherwise, the corporatists are already at the door. Everybody, they're already at the door. Most big business people contribute to both campaigns. Not only do they hedge their bets, they're like, no, I'm going to have my feet planted directly in both camps. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Okay, Alex, you can call Commissioner Johnson just before 7:45, okay?
Yes, ma'am. I'll call him about 2-3 minutes before.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You all keep talking. We're on Facebook Live. I mean, look, I almost fell out laughing. Boy, because I know some of the people who have come out publicly for Brandon, who I know are Valor supporters. I'm like, I'm not mad at you. Just say it. When he said, because he was giving us something, because he keeps calling the names of the people that he was with, and they even throw Reverend's name, and Reverend supported me. I said he never supported charter schools. Well, I didn't say that. Well, don't imply that, and so that people can infer that. Don't do that.
Mr. Robert is off. Would you like me to call him back?
Yes, please. Don't.
Well, I just love Dwight's reference to Nicodemus. But there are Nicodemuses on both sides of this campaign.
You can't make this stuff
up. Dwight?
You can't make it up, and Dwight doesn't make good sense. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278, and everybody like and share the show, like and share. Boy, this has been, it's a very interesting time. That's all I can say. Because I think that he does have a lot more support in the black community than has been calculated, but I agree with you, Dr. Starks. Brandon has more support in the white community that's being calculated.
Mr. Roberts back on.
Everything's just up in the air. I mean, are they going to fingerprint former President Trump? Yes or no? Is he going to do a milk shot? I mean, how's this? Yeah, every day is just something new. I mean, no, really. And how will this play out politically? There's that too, Oh yeah, no,
well,
that's a big thing.
As to the reality that Chicago's mayoral election is a preview for 24, and it's real. First of all, the big people inside the Democratic Party are weighing whether or not they should bring the 24 national convention to Chicago. So. And it is weighing. If Brandon wins, they will be even more motivated to bring the convention to Chicago. Less if Vallis wins. Secondly, they're looking at the mood of progressives in big cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, and because that's a big preview to the presidential election in terms of motivation, in terms of turnout of progressives, because again,
1 minute.
Biden is looking at that. People who are running for the Senate, for the Congress, are looking at the motivation of progressives in throughout the country, but particularly in big cities like New York, Chicago, Philadelphia.
Well, look at these Trumpers too, because many Trumpers, remember, they toggled between Bernie and Trump. People want change. People want their money. There's a lot going on out here. And because we're not being nuanced, I think, in our
30 seconds.
analyses, I think we're missing a lot. Because we've painted Trump supporters with a very broad brush, and many people they wanted somebody to do something. And you see it. I just will never forget that moment in 2016 as you saw people who were like, Trump, Bernie, Trump, Bernie. I'm not, what? So stand by. We're going to have Brandon Johnson up at 7:45. So stand by, everybody.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. Brandon Johnson will be joining us very shortly to talk about this campaign. What an event they had last night. What a time. Congresswoman Ramirez, Congressman Jackson, Reverend Jesse Jackson, and of course, Bernie Sanders brought it on home, everybody. Last night at this magnificent gathering, thousands upon thousands of people. The energy is there. What's going to happen? Indeed, Dwight McKee, Dr. Robert Starks, Kevin Lampe, and Attorney Robert Patillo. Otis called back because you want to speak to the black folks who are supporting Paul Vallis quietly. Come on, talk to us, Otis.
Have me on again.
Okay, sweetie, very quickly, what's on your mind?
Paul Vallis, that what he said about black people voting for him, that's an old tactic that was used back in the 1960s going all the way up to the 1980s where white candidates had to say that to get black votes. And him being on your show that long, that shows how desperate he was. But I just hope that Brandon Johnson get in and dominate his first 4 years helping black people economically and have a black community and a lot of black culture centers that can inspire them to send these kids to Africa and learn the culture there, like every other race does.
Okay. I mean, Dwight, why don't you respond to him? Because I think that a lot of people do support him very quietly.
Which one supports Brandon or supports Vallis?
Vallis, a lot of black folks support him. We heard an impassioned Vallis supporter yesterday.
Oh yeah, I think he may be fairly unique. At least his intensity is probably unique because he has that 30, 40 years history with Vallis. But I think that people
Rich is still on hold.
In their bet, they think Vallis will probably win, at least because when they endorsed him, it looked like Vallis had all the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, that's changed, and I think some of those people really want to rethink their positions now, but they're stuck out there. I think a lot of people operate in their own self-interest, and they think that they could cut a deal with a chosen winner and be ahead of the curve. Now that curve is shifted, and they may just get caught dangling in the wind if Brandon wins. The one thing about this election that has been good is I think it's created a reckoning. I think we've been able to see where people really, really, really operate. And many people we thought that was community-based for the people, right on, right, power to the people, right on, right on. We've gotten a different point of view of who they really are and what they really stand for. And that's a good thing, because they may not have to account for that this time around, but there will come a day that they would have to account for their inconsistency. And I'm not judging them. I'm just evaluating them based on who they said they were and who they tried to explain to us they were. And when you look at Vallis's policies and anti-community they are and anti-black children they are, it suggests that you've operated in your own interest rather than the people's interest and the children's interest.
Let me bring on Rich Kaplan. Rich, you are a retired teacher. What's on your mind today?
Hi there. I love your program and your guests. So I'm a retired high school math teacher.
Oh.
And why am I for Brandon? Because he believes public schools and Vallis doesn't. He's made, we know about the New Orleans story, and I feel like Brandon's a progressive. He wants to raise taxes on the super rich, help workers and the middle class and poor people, just like Biden and Bernie and Brandon and all of us. And he really is the only one that can cut fine, because he realizes it's a complicated task, and he's going to be creative and nuanced about figuring out how to help Chicago kids do better in life and thereby reduce crime. Let me just for a minute tell you what I've been doing and what my friends have been doing. On the north and northwest side, on the red line and the brown line, we've been going up on the platforms and handing out literature for Brandon, and the response every day is better and better. There are all these African Americans and immigrants and Latinos and lots of white people who are voting for Brandon, who want us to give them 2 more leaflets so they can pass it out to their friends. There's just a lot of enthusiasm, and I am clearly very enthusiastic about Brandon.
Well, you know what, Mr. Kaplan, you said that you're seeing the enthusiasm grow. What's happening out there?
I think there's a sense, that he can win, Brandon can win, and I think there's a sense of, do we want a real Democrat to be our mayor, or do we want a Republican to be our mayor? And I think more and more regular people who don't have a stake in, supporting the wealthy corporate class, just random African Americans and white people. I live in Rogers Park. There's just a growing sense that Brandon's going to win. Which is
Remember, Santita, and thanks so much for your support, my brother, is that when they did the initial polls, 20% of the people were undecided. And that 20%, I think, is what was now making a difference. That's that 20%, I think, that the brother's seeing now.
Rich is off.
understands a little bit of who Brandon is and a little bit of who Vallis is. And now they're no longer undecided.
Well, Mr. Kaplan apparently understood as a public school teacher. You know, he said, you know, as someone who has been looking, Robert Patillo, I mean, because the charter movement is a big movement. I mean, now 100% of the public schools in New Orleans are charter. I mean, shouldn't that be disturbing to people, Robert Patillo?
Well, it absolutely should be, and I think this is a larger movement across the country where we've seen so much money from these private and school people being invested in these races, and no one has ever quite explained, well, what happens to everybody else who doesn't get into these programs? We're just leaving them to die on the vine? When are we going to invest in the systemic issues? We're already behind so far when it comes to other countries around the world. You know, I stopped doing a lot of conservative media in probably the last 6 months or so. I started doing a lot more international media. And if you listen just to the stories that they have on their news about their schools, about their curriculum, about the money that's being invested, we're not keeping up with the developing world on these issues of education. And it seems to have simply been one of those things that America gave up on. We've given up on gun violence. We've given up on Social Security and Medicare. We've also given up on education. And I think we have to start forcing these candidates to have better ideas on what they're going to do to fix these schooling systems, because the rest of the world is not waiting on us. They're just speeding right past us.
Everybody, before I have Brandon Johnson come up, he'll be up in about a minute or two. Just very quickly, let me do a round robin. Handicap the race, Dr. Starks, about 30 seconds.
It will be, Brandon will win by 10% as a minimum.
Mr. Johnson's on.
No reason to have a recount on the part of the Vallis forces.
So you won't need to deploy teams to stop the steal. Oh, you can't make this. You can't make this stuff up. Wait, but you know what? Before I do the round robin, I have got the man who would be mayor, Brandon Johnson, on with us right now. Commissioner Johnson, boy, you all turned it out last night. I mean, you have everybody coming in for you. How special is that? I mean, that's the zeitgeist. So it's the spirit of the times. People not only want change, they're being very specific about the change that they want, and we've just seen your support surge. What's going on, Commissioner Johnson?
Good morning. Well, thank you so much, Santita. What's going on right now is that there's an incredible level of enthusiasm for a mayor's race. I don't remember the last time I was even old enough to be able to appreciate it. So it feels good. You know, the support that we're getting all over the city of Chicago is just it's a remarkable testament to organizing and how much love that people have for one another, loving people enough to want to see every single child with a fully funded neighborhood school and reliable and safe transportation, the ability to afford to live here, access to health care, mental health care, good paying jobs to close the economic gap. Santita, as you know, for every $1 a white family earns in the city of Chicago, a black family earns 1 cent. I mean, the economic divide between our communities, no one wants to live in a city with that type of, gross inequities. And so people are gathering together, leaning on one another, supporting one another, and Reverend Jackson being there and Martin Luther King III being there, and of course Bernie Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders, and Jonathan Jackson. I even saw Yusuf last night. I feel like I had the Jackson 3. So it was just a very exciting moment, and I'm grateful to have so many people who recognize that the city of Chicago can certainly live up to its promises of being a world-class city.
Well, let me ask you this, because I had Paul Vallis on yesterday, and I, said, I want to have some balance here. We have seen the head of the FOP say that there's going to be blood in the streets if you win, that there'll be mass resignations of the police officers. But we've also had Attorney Erin Connolly on, she said we've had a lot of Latinas who are supporting you, who've been followed. They have been shadowed and menacingly by Vallis supporters. Of course, he said that these are not my supporters. They're certainly not doing it with my permission. And I asked him about Mr. the FOP, the head of the FOP, I forget his name, Mr. Cantanarza?
John Cantanarza, right.
Yes, and so what do you say to people who, in your name, use incendiary rhetoric? Or, because he said people are pulling up his signs and they're your people. I want you to speak to that now, because we want to dispel all myths and we want everyone to speak to whatever they see that they feel is not right. Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, look, I mean, we want to make sure that this, campaign is based on the substance. There's enough there. Trust me. I mean, that no one should be participating in, not just the silliness of messing around with, with people's signage, but no one should be using incendiary, provocative, presentations like the way the head of the FOP has done, and some other individuals that have said that if I get elected, do not accept the results. Again, if you elect Brandon, there's going to be blood. There's going to be blood in the streets. I mean, but it's quite.
It's hard to even get it out.
Exactly. And I want to make sure that we're having a real substantive conversation about the clear difference between me and my opponent. The bottom line is, he is supported. 21 of his donors supported, the indicted President Donald Trump. And the conversations around his candidacy that have a January 6th tone to it is quite disturbing. And so what I'm going to focus in on telling the truth about how we got here. There's a real structural deficit that exists in the city of Chicago because of the way, Paul did finances, and he took that around the country. We know that. It's well documented. He's been fired from every single job that he's ever had. He's really not good at the job that he's been hired to do, and that's enough. It's not just, his political leanings, but the fact that he has failed up over and over again, and he should not be rewarded for those failures. The stakes are just too high, and I'm committed to making sure that we not only tell the truth, but we lay out our vision, and our vision is pretty straightforward. We believe in public accommodations as a city. The city of Chicago wants to be able to afford to live in Chicago. It's becoming increasingly more unaffordable. The fact that our communities have been decimated with such severity, it's caused the type of not just economic stability, but the poverty that exists. And as a result of that, we're less safe. And if in order to be a better, stronger, safer Chicago, we can't keep doing, we can't continue to do what we've done in the past, which has failed us over and over again. We have to be smart, and we have to do what works. And what works, Santita and Professor Starks, this, you have to invest in people. What I want for my family, and God bless my family, they know I love them because I invest so much, they just keep asking for more, right? But what they do ask for, they ask for the things that allow them to be fulfilled. They're not just asking for anything, right? And so we invest in digital technology for my older son. We invest in the arts for my daughter. And of course, with my son, here's someone who has a wonderful talent of just critical thinking. He's very smart, sharp kid. So, we invest in, his academic success as well. That's what the people of Chicago want. And what I want for my family, I want for every single family in the city of Chicago. So I'm asking Chicago to punch 5. Let's come alive.
Well, you know what I've got. Attorney Robert Patillo, he is formerly the head of the Southeastern Rainbow Push chapter, but of course he's still active with Rainbow Push, has his own show on WAOK, the iconic Atlanta talk radio station, Dwight McKee, whom you know so well, and of course Dr. Robert Starks. But Kevin Lampe saw you last night. Of course, we all know Kevin Lampe and Kitty Kurth, and he said he saw a change in you last night. Kevin?
It was amazing. In 2004, Commissioner Johnson, I helped prepare a young state senator for his speech at the Democratic Convention in Boston. And I was on stage as Brock gave that history-making speech that laid the foundation for his presidency. And he captured, lightning in a bottle. And last night, I saw the same thing in you. I was weeping. The power, the commitment, the dedication that you showed in your speech last night, I was I was blown away, my friend.
You know what? And we have just seen.
Sandy, you think he was weeping? You should have seen Vallis.
Oh, Lord have mercy, Lord. Well, you know, I mean, because you heard something else in Mr. Vallis last night, because he stayed on the show for an hour. And Kevin, what did you hear? You said.
I heard in his voice a candidate that doesn't think they can win.
Well, and other people are saying that, you know, the race is going to be tighter than this. We do know that you all are going to have to reach out to each other no matter what, because this has exposed a deep, deep fissure in the city that we saw. You didn't see it, of course, in '83. That was like the first time I voted. We saw it, and we felt it in Washington. I was a student at Howard University at the time, and Judge Marion Perkins was my big sister, and she made sure everybody from Chicago FedExed those absentee ballots back to Chicago. Oh, that's all she wanted from us, and then you get into Delta land. That having been said, there's something going on. What do you think people want from you? What do they want? What do they need? What can the mayor of Chicago deliver? What are your deliverables, Commissioner Johnson?
Well, thank you for that question, and thank you for all the encouragement. It means a lot. You know, as you know, Santita, as much as we, try our best to put forth our best effort in the public, these dynamics do weigh on the family. And so thank you for all the prayers and the love that has surrounded my wife, my 3 children, my sisters, my siblings, and aunts and cousins, because, they're trying their best not to respond on Facebook. At least back in the day.
Please don't let them do it.
Worry about social media. And I'm like, just be easy. But I believe for the city of Chicago, people want to know that the mayor's office is accessible. And there is really a seat for everyone at the table. Whether you run a small business or a large corporation, or whether you're a bus aide, there's room for everyone. And there's more than enough for everyone, right? I mean, the liberation of people is what our ultimate goal is. And when I talk about liberation, I'm talking about the freedom to be able to ride bikes in neighborhoods like Austin and Roseland and Inglewood and North Lawndale and Gage Park and Humboldt Park, right? Without the fear of a bike ride ending in tragedy. And one of the things that I believe that I can do right away is, one, really restore confidence in the people of Chicago that there's a plan. What I've learned over the course of my time, whether as a teacher, an organizer, Cook County Commissioner, people just want to know that there's a plan and that they are part of that plan and that we're all moving and working together to deliver that plan, because not one person can take on all of the complex challenges that the city of Chicago has. Know that electing Brandon Johnson means you're going to elect someone who has a deep, deep love for people, someone who is collaborative, someone who is competent, right? I mean, these are the expectations that I believe everyone has in a leader, someone that can bring people together, someone that's not going to dictate, the wheel, but we're going to organize our wheel collectively and move forward. And, we can have, well-trained detectives that are sensitive to the needs of the very communities that are most impacted. We can have a healthcare and a mental health care system that's fully funded and supported. People can expect that. We can have environmental justice. People can expect that. We can actually have, schools in the city of Chicago, and they all look like and feel like Whitney Young and Jones College Prep and Kenwood, right, and Keene and Lindblom. All of these dynamics are possible. Why? Because they already exist. It's a matter of expanding them and making it more accessible to more people. And that's what I'm going to do as mayor. I'm committed to that as a teacher. I've committed my life to that as an organizer. I've done that managing multi-billion-dollar budgets as a Cook County Commissioner who's been elected twice to do that. And I'm so looking forward to the city of Chicago coming together and experiencing the pride that we have, to have Judge Mathis and Lorenz Tate, Common. You have all of these individuals who come from this city, and they're coming together again because they recognize and feel the energy that we're all experiencing right now. So let's hold to that. If you believe that a better, stronger, safer Chicago is possible, then I'm your person. And so go convince 5, 10 other people. Bob Starks has a whole lot of confidence, so I appreciate his prediction.
Thank you.
I'm going to just hold to his optimism. And if everyone does, their part, then we'll make sure when Bob Starks comes back on Wednesday morning, he gets to get the big prize of predicting a big win. So thank you, Tim.
Well, of course, the teacher's going to appreciate the college professor. I mean, hello, what a bias. The last minute and a half belongs to you. Teacher Brandon Johnson, who just could be mayor on Tuesday. You go. Commissioner Johnson, what do you want us to know?
Yeah, this has been an incredible journey. When I started off back in October, when I announced, I was polling at 2.3%. But yet, here we stand today, where we have an opportunity to elect someone from the working class, a public school teacher, organizer, Cook County Commissioner to the 5th floor. But know that me going to the 5th floor means that all of our interests and values will be on the 5th floor. So I'm encouraging people, don't be discouraged. Continue to organize, continue to talk to your friends and family members. And on April 4th, let's make sure that dream, comes into full manifestation, that public housing, good schools, reliable transportation, good paying jobs and healthcare is possible. So punch 5, let's bring Chicago alive. And of course, go to brandonforchicago.com and you can sign up to volunteer there. We need all the help we can get. So thank you, Santita. God bless you all for the work that you all have done and what you poured into me and my family. I'm not here without the work and the collective struggle of all of us. So thank you again, and I'm looking forward to coming back on the show as mayor-elect.
Look, I'm waiting.
Commissioner,
Commissioner,
could I ask one question?
No, 30 seconds. Gotta go.
What is your next major rally or
Okay, just very quickly. When can we see you? Where?
Yeah, so real quick, Fellowship, big concert Sunday evening at Fellowship Baptist Church. I think that's Reverend Jackson's church.
That's we were all baptized there. That's right, including Dwight. You might not believe that Dwight was baptized, but he was baptized there. Reverend Clay Evans.
And Brandon, I don't think it's going to even be that close. I think it's going to be at least 10 to 15%. I think it's going to be a landslide at one level. People are going to be surprised.
Kevin Lampy?
Okay, all right.
Because I think what we look at the difference between an announcement and an anointment. And I think that you have the anointment, and the anointment breaks the yoke.
Kevin Lampy, you want to say anything before we go?
You know what? You can vote today. You can vote this weekend. So get out and vote.
It's election season, everybody. Same day, on-site voter registration. Vote.
Vote.
So that we can all win. I love you, everybody. God bless you. See you on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson on Sunday. God bless. Thank you, Alex. All right, everybody. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to say? Oh, you're the best. Is there anything anyone else would like to say before we go?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
One of those great interviews, but I also think that the momentum is on his side because he does have an anointment, and it comes out of his love for the people, and you can feel that he's very sincere about serving the people, as opposed to this mercenary who's just looking for one job after another job. He creates a whole different spirit. And you can feel that. And so I think that's what a lot of that energy, a lot of that zeitgeist that we sense is about. He has a genuine caring for the people.
I just want people to know, and I believe that. But, I also believe that Paul Vallis is a fine man. there are a lot of people I love and respect who love and respect him, and I appreciate that. I've chosen another person in this race, but I appreciate that. That having been said, everybody, you got to get out and vote. And you must understand that come April 5th, should he become mayor, you better be waiting for him at City Hall, because guess who's already there? All the corporatists, all the corporations, they're already in there. They're locked into the office. And they're going to let him know what he can and cannot do, who he can and cannot speak to. That's how this works. And you must show up and show out and let him know, and let them know more than that. Business as usual, that's over. That's over. That is what we have to do. We have to come alive, not just on April 4th and on April 5, but through these next 4 years. You're going to have to march, you're going to have to push. And it's not, you do that because you love him and you know where he wants to go. But where he wants to go, that's not enough. You're going to have to push the envelope. You know how it works, Dwight and Kevin and Robert and Dr. Starks. You know, running and governing are two different things. And then when you become a top tier candidate, it becomes a whole different ball game. So I just want people to know that, you know, we're deep in the game now. As Reverend Jackson says, we were in slavery longer than we have been freed. There's so much about power that we did not understand. I certainly can tell you that when Reverend ran in '83 and you know and the '88 campaigns, there was so much that we learned. It was like, I remember walking out of San Francisco in 1984, like I didn't want to talk to anyone for days, because you know your mind was blown by the stuff that you learned about how things really, really work. And how things really, really work, if you are not involved, my brothers and sisters, the voters, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. You must stand at the gate and let Brandon know, this is what I need you to do, and you better do it. So he can look at the corporatists and the corporations and say, hey, if I don't do this, we all got a problem. Please. Get ready to go to work. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to say? Okay. Ooh, I love you. I love you, Dr. Starks. Get some Allegra. And I love you, Kevin Lampy and Dwight McKee and Attorney Robert Patillo. I love you all. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you, Alex. Love you, too. Thank you for some great shows. You're just wonderful, Alex. You're the best. You're the best. And I love all my morning stars, everybody. Please like and share this show, and like and subscribe on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, and like and share on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. And please become my friend over there. That's right, like that page. That's the only page that I can accept any new friends on. I love you, everybody. Have a great one, and I'll see you on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson on Sunday. I'm Santita Jackson, signing off. Love you.